Day one of Europe's plan to solve Europe's humanitarian crisis. At dawn, on Lesbos, more than 130 migrants were getting ready to be collectively deported. Their final moments on the continent they'd risked their lives to reach. Each person was escorted onto the boats by an official. There were no Syrians among this group. These migrants mostly originate from Pakistan. Others came from Iraq and Bangladesh. They were then bound for Turkey, a short crossing to the place they left illegally.
Europe, wake up!
Europe, wake up!
As they departed, a small group of protesters condemned the controversial deal between Turkey and the EU as a dark day for Europe.
Shame on you!
They arrived in the western Turkey port of Dikili just a few hours later to face the latest stage of this lengthy process. There were protests here too, but officials stressed it had all gone smoothly.
The procedure was very calm. Everything was very orderly. Migrants were put on buses. And when the buses were ready, the buses came here to the harbor.
Back on Lesbos, one charity expressed concern that meeting today's important political deadline meant the process had been rushed.
We do not believe that the correct legal and protection frameworks are in place to actually guarantee that these people being returned to Turkey will be safe. We know that Afghanis, Pakistanis and other nationalities don't actually have international or national protection in Turkey. We also don't know if the people who were returned today had a chance to have their asylum applications fairly assessed.
For those hoping to stay in Europe, there is a scramble to complete asylum forms. But some of those refugees and migrants at this camp and others like it say they're confused by the new deal. Mahe, who worked as a baker in Damascus, told me he fears being deported. Of course I have fears of going back to Turkey, he said. I risked my life to come here and I borrowed the money. I just want a better life. I want to go legally to Europe. Anxiety and frustration is said to be growing here too. Lesbos' Moria camp is raising concerns for housing more than it was intended for and allegedly restricting people's freedom of movement.
The authorities stress that this isn't a detention centre, but many charities and organisations now dispute that. We're not allowed to go inside to see the conditions here, which is said to be rapidly deteriorating for the 3,000 people inside.
As Greece started returning people to Turkey, the Coast Guard rescued 173 people off the coast of Lesbos. There were children among them. On today, of all days, whatever timescale the politicians had in mind, people are still prepared to do this.